bridal ruffles and veils. Framed with a starched white lace, her face looks perverse, a beautiful carnivorous tropical flower. White threads from the headdress intertwine with the black tendrils that spring from the veins of leaves adorning her hair. Like a female spider peering from the center of her web, Frida seems to have trapped her thoughts of her mate in the form of a miniature portrait of Diego. In 1944, a year later, Frida painted Frida and Diego, 1929-1944, as an anniversary gift for Diego. Their faces form a single head. This melding of identities is not a harmonious union. The two halves of their faces do not line up, a mismatching that creates a feeling of explosive disjunction. Frida painted another self-portrait in which she wears a Tijuana headdress in 1948. The contours of her face are fuller, coarser, older. Frida's despair intensifies in Diego and I, the one painting in which she comes close to letting go of her mask of impassivity. Frida is weeping, and a mass of loose hair swirls around her neck as if it were going to choke her. A small portrait of Diego rests upon Frida's eyebrows. Diego was the constant intruder into her thoughts. Frida's private feelings about her husband are revealed in her journal. I love Diego, no one else. Diego, I am alone. My Diego, I am no longer alone. You accompany me. You put me to sleep and you revive me. Diego, nothing is comparable to your hands, and nothing is equal to the gold green of your eyes. My body fills itself with you for days and days. You are the mirror of the night, the violent light of lightning, the dampness of the earth. Your armpit is my refuge. My fingertips touch your blood. All my joy is to feel your life shoot forth from your fountain flower, which mine keeps in order to fill all the paths of my nerves, which belong to you. She took on a more and more motherly role in relation to him. There was much of the little boy in Diego. Frida discovered that by mothering him, she could tie him to her emotionally. In the mid-1940s, Frida's health worsened. She lost weight, had frequent fainting spells, and a fever. The pains in her foot and spine increased, and she had to wear a steel corset to support her back. The broken column was painted in 1944, soon after she had undergone surgery. Frida's resolute calm creates an almost unbearable tension, a feeling of paralysis. Anguish is made vivid by nails driven into her naked body. A gap resembling an earthquake fissure splits her torso, the two sides of which are held together by an orthopedic corset, which is a symbol of the invalid's imprisonment. Inside her torso, we see a cracked ionic column in the place of her own deteriorating spinal column. Life is thus replaced by a crumbling ruin. Another 1946 painting that records Frida's pain is The Little Deer, a self-portrait in which Frida presents herself with the body of a young stag her human head crowned with antlers. Once again, Frida used flawed objects to refer to her bodily and psychological injuries. Massive tree trunks of dry, cracked wood with broken branches symbolize decay and death, and knots and gashes in the bark echo the wounds in the deer's flanks. In Without Hope, 1945, Frida stages her drama in a vast heaving sea of volcanic rock. Again, the faults and fissures of the land symbolize the violence done to her body. Frida lies in bed weeping, and between her lips she holds the tip of a huge membranous funnel, a huge cornucopia of gore containing a pig, chicken, brains, turkey, beef, sausage, and fish, expressing her horror at force feeding after surgery. The sheet that covers Frida's naked body is dotted with round, microscopic organisms that look like cells with nuclei or eggs waiting to be fertilized. At the top of the cornucopia is Frida's sugar candy skull. In June 1946, after nearly 9 months of being immobilized in bed, Frida went to see a prominent New York surgeon who performed a spinal fusion. When Frida returned to Mexico, she was first bedridden and then enclosed in a steel corset for 8 months. Instead of improving, her health grew worse. Nevertheless, she painted. Tree of Hope, 1946, shows Frida clothed in a red Tijuana costume, sitting guard over a Frida who lies naked but partially covered with a sheet on a hospital trolley. The recumbent Frida appears to be anesthetized after an operation that has left deep, bleeding incisions on her back. The seated Frida proudly holds a bright pink orthopedic corset. She is fortified by a flag she holds in her right hand, emblazoned in red with words from a Mexican song that Frida often repeated to her friends, "Tree of Hope, keep firm." By early 1950, Frida was so sick that she had to go to a hospital in Mexico City. She was to remain there for a year, having a series of bone grafts and spinal fusions. When she felt well enough, she painted, using a special easel that allowed her to paint lying flat on her back. She worked on My Family, another version of her family tree. Painting had become an ever more important source of spiritual support, and Frida longed to get well so that she could work for longer hours. "When I leave the hospital 2 months from now," she said after 6 operations, "there are 3 things I want to do: paint, paint, paint." Frida had her friends sign their names on her various plaster casts, decorating them also with feathers, mirrors, decals, photos, and the red star and hammer and sickle. "I never lost my spirit," she said. "I passed 3 years in the hospital as if it were a fiesta. I cannot complain." It was out of gratitude to her surgeon that Frida painted self-portrait with the portrait of Dr. Ferriel. It is a secular retablo of Frida surviving danger and Dr. Ferriel taking the place of a holy image. Frida wrote, "I have been sick a year, Dr. Faril saved me. He gave me back the joy of life.